Welcome back to Wake Up America. I'm Tom Basile. With 2021 nearly in the rearview mirror, are there some trends that we should be looking for next year? To talk about them, let's bring in our money men, business and markets analyst and Newsmax contributor Seth Denson, and America's accountant Dan Geltrude. Merry Christmas, guys. Welcome back to Wake Up America weekend.
Merry Christmas, Tom.
Good to see you.
So let's start with e-commerce. Obviously, a thriving sector, particularly with COVID, could be a multi-trillion-dollar marketplace real soon. Seth, huge implications for brick and mortar. You and I have talked about this before, but as COVID becomes more endemic and people start to move on, and a lot of people are moving on, do you think that we're going to see a slowdown in e-commerce a bit that could mean a resurgence for regular stores?
Yeah, Tom, I don't know that we see a big slowdown in the e-commerce area. As a matter of fact, I think that in some aspects, e-commerce has become more part of our everyday life. But I don't think that this is the end for brick and mortar stores either. As a matter of fact, going out and shopping quite a bit over the last week here in Texas, I can assure you that brick and mortar is doing just fine. At least it is here. Because I think that, listen, Americans by and large still want to get their hands on things before buying it. But we also have a lot of, we'll call it Baruch assault methodology in our mind thinking, right? I want it and I want it now.
Right,
we can still do that in brick and mortar.
No, I like that. I like that analogy. And obviously, it's so important that it, particularly in like suburban communities, that malls have to survive. If you don't have a mall, that's a lot of tax rateables. That's a lot of tax money. And it helps fuel a lot of the economies in those areas. So if that goes away, you're going to have a lot of communities that are going to be in very, very big trouble. I want to move on to artificial intelligence. Machine learning is almost everywhere. It's even crossing over into a whole bunch of different sectors. Dan, I remember when Obama basically very matter-of-factly said, robotics and AI are here, get used to it, people are going to lose their jobs, it is what it is. Do you see our economy transitioning fast enough, though, to deal with that?
I think that's one of the things I do agree with Barack Obama, is that we are going to see it transitioning to far more artificial intelligence. And the reason is quite clear. Right now, Tom, we have an environment where it's an employee's market. And businesses, quite frankly, just can't get enough people to work. So with that, they are looking for alternatives. One of those alternatives is investing into robotics, artificial intelligence. And the long-term effect of that is ultimately going to be less jobs for people. Now, an example of that, if you look at a lot of fast food restaurants, when you walk in there now, you are not placing your order with a person. That's now been replaced by a ordering kiosk. So right there you have robotics, artificial intelligence replacing people when you go to get a burger.
Well, look, Seth, it's going to make it worse, though, in my view, if the president gets up during the State of the Union, which is coming up now, we're entering into a new year, and he says, well, we need to raise the minimum wage again, we need to raise the national minimum wage, and we need to double down on his welfare plan. What do you think?
Yeah, no, listen, Tom, I agree with you there. And I think what we've learned over the past years, we were struggling to get people back to work, was that we don't need the federal government to step in and set a minimum wage. Private sector can solve for this itself. It has to make itself more attractive to not only gain new employees, but retain them. We had this great resignation period going on for people looking for bigger and better. And so we need that entry-level job. What we can't do is burden corporate America, specifically small business corporate America, which, by the way, makes up 50% of those minimum wage jobs, any more than we already have. We need it to get back open. We need to get bottlenecks undone. And that's what really needs to happen. The president needs to stay out of the private sector's way, let government stay out of its way, and let it continue to grow.
Next up, guys, working from home. So many companies still pushing back these return dates. Seth, if office buildings remain mostly vacant for 2022, how are America's cities going to be able to compensate for that lost revenue? And do you think that we're going to actually start to see pressure from municipalities and even from businesses in terms of COVID mitigation to say, look, we need to reopen in 2022?
Yeah, what we haven't seen a lot out of the local government sector is this push to reopen, unfortunately, at least not nationally. There's certainly some pockets, like I mentioned earlier, here in Texas, places like Florida, Arizona, they have a common theme, I think, in those states. But those are opening up, and commercial real estate is doing quite well, where we're seeing it punished at places like Chicago and New York and San Francisco, Los Angeles. And so I think that there will be, Dan and I just tend to disagree on this a little bit. I think that we will get back to a return to work, but I think employers are going to have to find new ways to attract people back into the office. But certainly we need a thriving commercial real estate market. Most of the prices have rebounded since their lows, but again, we've got to get America reopened. We got to get employees back to the office too.
Yeah, and you know, to that point, recruiting and retaining employees, Dan, for years, it seemed like kind of that no-frills employment contract was very dominant. You want a job, you get a job, and you're going to take basically what we're going to give you. Now you're seeing cost of living increases making a comeback with inflation. Do you think we're going to see bonuses, signing bonuses, and other job perks make a comeback to the point, like, you know, maybe the way that they were in the 80s and 90s?
Yeah, I think we are going to see that, Tom. We're seeing it now, and we're going to continue to see it until there's some equilibrium matching up between the amount of job openings and the people that can fulfill those jobs. Right now, employers and companies are in a tough situation because maybe they haven't made that transition into using artificial intelligence, so they are really relying on, you know, the human labor factor. And if they can't get enough people or incentivize people to take those positions without bonuses and without other incentives, well, they have no choice. If you want people, you're going to have to pay them to put them in place. And how about this, Tom, to keep them there, because you can't afford to lose anyone.
Yeah, and now I'm going to put both of you guys in the last minute that I have on the spot, all right, because it's the last time that I think I'm going to see you until the new year. Seth, to you first, what's your big financial or economic prediction for 2022?
I think interest rates are going to start to bring the stock market back into correction when we start to see them rise. And so I think that that's going to be the big thing. The bull market, it may be over.
All right. What percentage are you willing to throw a percentage out there for us?
Ooh, gosh. Tom, you put me on the spot. I think we see probably somewhere around 5%. I don't think it gets into the double digits.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's good news, everybody, from Seth. Dan, to you.
Well, I'm going to go with something that Seth alluded to before that we disagree upon, and that's people going back to the office to work. I'm going to predict, unfortunately, that we're going to continue to see COVID variants popping up, and therefore people are going to continue to work remotely. I don't see the comeback of people going back to the office in 2022.
I just, Dan, I hope you're wrong, because it's a virus. It's going to mutate hundreds and hundreds of times. You're not going to be able to stop it. And we need to move on. And again, the revenue that comes in from the real estate industry in those cities and everything else that those office buildings touch in terms of jobs and the economy, like, it has to come back, or you're going to have places like New York and Chicago and LA and others to fall off a cliff. So Seth Denson and Dan Geltrude, thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, you'll be back next hour.